오늘 아침 뭐 드셨어요? Hey, if you don't understand Korean, chances are you couldn't understand that. I just said what you had for breakfast. And yes, whether it was the last time you saw Squid Game as a non-Korean speaker or read translated business reports, you were able to read and engage with that because someone translated or interpreted for you. But have you ever wondered how they do it? Spoiler alert, the field is not just about human version of Google Translate. There's a lot more to it. Today, we're going to learn a bit more about that world. Yes, translation, interpretation, and more. What is it like to be doing a translation business? What is changing? And why shouldn't you compare online translation tools like Google Translate to a human translator? Hi, I'm Monica Kang, founder and CEO of Innovators Box, and you're listening to Curious Monica, where we study different people at different jobs.
I couldn't find solid footing of how to really embrace that ambiguity, but feel like I was contributing. And so I received some really good advice from someone who pretty much told me, create your own structure. If that's what you need, then be the artist to create that structure.
It's very challenging and every day is different. Like some days I feel like I totally have this down. I am totally balanced, and the next day might be different.
Welcome to Curious Monica. I'm excited about today's conversation because this is a field that I grew up with greater appreciation for a few ways. The first time I got to appreciate it was in my first job as a college student. I had a temp job at a small Korean event production company that needed someone to handle English-speaking VIPs. While they had former translators and interpreters, they still needed someone who could welcome the VIP speakers and converse in English and Korean. I realized how important it was to have customer-centric engagement, but also how the wrong interpretation of any phrase may easily misfire how our guest would feel. And that awareness continued on as I built my career in international affairs and diplomacy. To do the nuclear security work, well, we needed to rely on our interpreters and translators to rely on the message with our partnering countries. I realized why it was key to find a translator and interpreter who really understood both the terminologies that we were using to translate the correct meanings, but also have a strong sense of reading the room to interpret the energy of the room when we meet officials in person. It's so much more than just saying what's being said. You don't want to miscommunicate those messages when talking about matters such as nuclear weapon security, especially when you're in their home countries. I couldn't pick up what they were saying in Russian during our trips in Kazakhstan or Kyrgyzstan, other than thank you, but it made me appreciate how much care and thought our interpreters and translators did to ensure the full message was shared. And of course, on a lighter note, we get to have the joy of experiencing good translations as we consume foreign movies. So the world of translation and interpretation is so key in our global economy. So what really happens when you work in this field? That's why I'm eager to introduce you to two friends at Terra Translations who have been thinking about all these questions in the past 25 years. Meet Marina Ilari and Colleen Perez from Terra Translations. I've had the joy of doing some work with them as they helped translate some of our innovation worksheets a few years ago when we developed. With a team of over 1,000 plus translation professionals across the globe, what started as an English and Spanish translation company became a global language service serving 16 languages. The family-owned business is a certified women-owned business and celebrates diversity, inclusion, and a collaborative workplace. You may have heard them briefly if you tuned into our latest Dear Workplace podcast called Why We Stay and Leave Jobs, as they shared about how they learned how to build a workplace that makes people feel heard and appreciated. Today, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into why they love translations, how they got into this field, and what changes and trends we are seeing in this field. Well, first, how does one get into this field? And is this something you thought you wanted to do?
I did not think that I was going to be running a company. No, I actually pursued theater growing up. That was my first career choice.
This is Marina, the CEO of Terra Translations.
I did not think that I was going to be running a company. No, I actually pursued theater growing up. That was my first career choice. And then I ended up doing the translation degree on the side of doing theater. I worked in theater for 4 years. And then eventually I started working more and more in translation. And I fell in love with this profession. And my mother is a translator. So I always say that choosing theater was sort of like me being rebellious about not wanting to follow the same steps that my mother had taken, even though my mom was like, you should do translation so we can work together. And I was like, no, that's like your thing, not my thing. But it ended up being my thing too. And we did work together. That's how I got started in the translation business, actually working alongside my mother. And then, eventually about 4 years ago, she retired and I took over the company. So it started as a family business and now it's grown a lot. And it's kind of strange to talk about the beginnings because people assume that I always pursued this as a career, but it's not the case. Sometimes, life sort of takes you another way and then you find yourself surprised.
Yes, a theme we hear from all innovators. We didn't realize we'll be doing what we are doing today. But when we follow each day with curiosity and intention, we find something that we fall in love with. And at times, it surprises us in a good way. Colleen shares a similar starting journey.
Oh my gosh, yeah. This was not in the 5-year plan. My 5-year plan, I feel like, is something that has evolved so much since I met Marina. So the way I got to Terra Translations, I was working in finance and I was living in Chicago and my life took me back to my hometown of southeastern Wisconsin. And I was not looking for a job. I was a new mother, I had a small child, and I just wanted to take some time to kind of figure out what I wanted to do, what I wanted to be when I grew up. Then a friend of mine said, you have to meet my friend Marina. She has this language translation company and she's looking for some help expanding her business in the United States. And I thought, I don't know. I know nothing about language translation. And, I just finished my graduate degree in finance. I'm like, I should probably pursue this. And we met for coffee and we really clicked just like on a human level. We, I think, became friends before anything else. And ever since then, everything has just kind of unfolded very organically over that one coffee, and I'm so grateful for that one connection, and I feel like that's been how I've really found some of the most fulfilling opportunities in my life is just connecting on a human level. So that's how I ended up in the world of language translation. I had no other background in it.
Yes! Sometimes you don't have to always start in that field to fall in love with it. This is why who you surround yourself with matters. Okay, but what about the day-to-day experience? Marina, did you always know you wanted to be the CEO?
I think it happened gradually. So it didn't happen from one day to the next. Oh, suddenly I'm CEO of this company that I don't know anything about. It was the contrary to that. I started translating. I started translating, then I started reviewing work, then I was quality checking things, then I was doing project management, then I was doing account management, then I was managing a team. It started like that gradually. So I got to know and I got to experience firsthand pretty much all the roles within my company. At some point I was doing the vendor management too, all of the roles I've experienced. And I think that gave me a really solid foundation to what I'm doing now. I truly understand things from all perspectives. And I think it really helps as a CEO of a company. And then the thing that happened to me is that I fell in love with the industry. I fell in love with the people in the industry. I fell in love with the vision that my mother had, and I wanted to continue that legacy. And it got me really excited. And once I get really excited about something, like I pour my heart and my soul to it. And that's what I'm doing with this company, truly. I'm giving it everything I've got.
Marina's answer is humbling. Translation requires a lot of diligence and care, and you really cannot do this without loving it. And for her, to have done not only translation work in depth before, but also all the various roles really permits us to be a leader who really understands her team and their positions.
I like this industry because it's all about helping. It's all helping people get access to language, to information, to critical things that they need to know at a global level. And then it helps also corporations grow and reach international markets and reach, a global audience. And that's what I find so fascinating is that connecting with a global audience is not just about translation. It's about localization. It's about globalization. It's about internationalization. So how can you succeed at a global scale? And it's, again, not just about translating a text or having one way of doing things translated into doing the same thing in a different market. It varies from market to market, right? So that's what localization is. You might need to adapt some content. You might need to rethink or recreate some content in order to connect and resonate with a specific target audience. And that's what I truly find fascinating about translation and localization and the work that we do and the clients that we work with.
Helping people get access to language and communication is so key. When was the last time you had a conversation but couldn't connect as you were speaking different languages? I could think of a dozen each day, and I'm grateful for those who took the time to do those localization translations. To think about how locals would read and relate to the translated text instead of doing word-to-word translations. Okay, so there is demand and need, but he is the who. Just because we all need access to good translation and interpretation may not necessarily mean we are their customers. How do you strategize where to focus on your translation business?
That's a really great question, and a question we've asked ourselves many times over. There's been a variety of, I'd say, iterations to our strategy on what type of client we pursue. And what has happened is we've really found our niche areas. The one really exciting place where Terra is exploding is video game localization. I love telling people about that because they think, oh yeah, I suppose video games are in multiple languages. Yeah, everything is in multiple languages or needs to be. And I mean, that's the hard thing about business development in this industry is language touches every single industry. And you can't be everything to everyone. And so we've really found true success in our video game expertise. Another area where we truly have found that we can help people and have specialized is in the education sector. So helping students, especially of different ethnic and cultural backgrounds, find success in education here, especially in the States. And also tech startups are really where we're able to make huge impact in helping people who English is not their first language and helping to create access through smartphones. These tech startups that are creating access to not only information, but then partnering with us to create the language component as well to really make it powerful. So those are sort of the three areas where we are very focused and busier than ever.
Such important reminders. Yes. While you may be busier than ever, it's key to build your niche. No matter what business you are in, you can't be everything for everyone. What is your niche? And who do you really want to serve? Reflect and ask what you really want to do because any field, including translation, is competitive. Marina shares how she is determined to see the growth and care she puts into the team because she wants to make sure more diverse voices are present in this field. As you may envision, translation is often led by a few big companies that are often all led by men.
it's mind-blowing to me that it's an industry that about 80% of the linguists, so the translators, the people doing the work, are women, but we don't see any diversity at the top. So these companies are mainly owned by white males, like the top 20 in the world. I think there's only one female CEO. So it just really inspires me to bring some diversity there and make a difference in that regard. I am a linguist also, so I see how the industry is run from both sides. And I would like our company, Terra, to make a difference and make things better, I think.
Make things better indeed. Thank you for doing what you do and bringing that voice. So how do you then balance all that you do as a CEO and lead a team remotely? The pandemic hasn't been easy for many of us.
It's very challenging, and every day is different. Like some days I feel like I totally have this down. I am totally balanced, and the next day might be different. So it varies from day to day, and that's why I don't know if I believe necessarily in the life-work balance, in the sense that one is different than the other and one is joyful and the other not so much. Truly, I believe that both life and work can be joyful, and that you can find a way to do both as well as possible, right? The concept I try to run away from is being perfect. And this was hard because I am a perfectionist. And I like things to be perfect, and I like projects to come out perfectly, and I like to perform at my best always. But I've learned that you cannot sustain that, and it's only going to bring you a lot of stress in your life. So I let go of those perfect ideas of what it meant to have a work-life balance, happy life, My work and my life are intertwined, completely intertwined. But I like it like that. It makes me happy to have it like that. And then again, moving away from what should be perfect and what should be considered perfect, because we're humans and we cannot put ourselves up for those standards all the time.
Yes, well said indeed. I'm guilty as a perfectionist as well, and appreciate what Marina means there. While we pride ourselves in providing quality, sometimes our strive for that could make us stressed. But it doesn't have to be this way. Do your best, but also let go of the thought there is one picture-perfect way to do this. How? Sometimes it helps to have a partner who thinks differently than you. This is why Colleen and Marina are such a great team. Colleen shares how she had to learn how to get comfortable with ambiguity, uncertainty, and change as someone who loves structure and planning.
I think back to when I joined Terra, I came from a company that was very rigid, which sort of aligned, I think, to my intrinsic who I am in a lot of ways. But to the point where you are expected to be at work 30 seconds to a minute before your start time so that you are ready to start. So when I joined Terra, it was such a 180 that it was a drastic learning curve for me. And I almost felt in the beginning like I couldn't find solid footing of how to really embrace that ambiguity, but feel like I was contributing. And so I received some really good advice from someone who pretty much told me, create your own structure. If that's what you need, then be the artist to create that structure of what's going to make you feel productive. And I think this is part of when companies are adapting to this remote work environment. There has to be a learning curve of figuring out what's going to work best for us. When I started working with Marina, she was very explicit to say, this is new. We're going to create this together. And I was so used to someone dictating to me, this is the job that you have to do, A, B, and C. But in reality, we were coming together to collaborate and create A, B, and C together. And once I realized, hey, I can create this structure that's going to help me thrive, but also accomplish what Marina is looking for, then I really felt like, okay, I got this. And oftentimes I'll come to Marina with like my list and be like, okay, these are the things that I want to do. A, B, C, D. This is how I'm going to do it. And she's like, no, yes, no, yes. And it's been a great way for our two personalities. I think, again, when I talk about how we complement each other, that has been really vital to us. I think both feeling like we're working the way that works best for us, but also being able to accomplish tangible goals for the company. And so to really answer your initial question, I think people have to be honest about how they work best. Because at first I felt sort of like I wasn't able to embrace the ambiguity. It was almost disappointing to myself. But once I realized, no, I'm just going to be true to myself. This is what helps me thrive. I was able to balance sort of the unknown with creating my own personal structure to help me feel successful and fulfilled.
Yes, I love what Colleen shared here on multiple levels. First, these are lessons beyond just the translation business industry. We can all design the structure and workflow we want. But to do so, we really need to ask ourselves, what do we really want to do and why? Then, leaders who are in a position to help shape this for others need to take more time to listen to what their people really want. Do they feel they could design the workflow they want and do? This nuance is crucial. Being told to do without knowing why or how I could explore doing it better, it will limit how we could grow and why we want to do something better. This is why, as I wrap up, when I asked what's the final piece of advice, they go back to the roots of how we see the world.
Focus on the culture. Focus on the culture of your team. And having a vision is great, but make sure that's aligned with the people that you surround yourself with.
Mine would be, don't feel confined to one way. You may think that this is a straight line, linear, to get from point A to point B, but consider that there are some other ways to get to that end goal.
Yes, whether it's building your team or your journey, be aware of that one solution. Stay curious, open, and listen to what else is out there. Who knows? Maybe you'll have coffee with a friend that leads you into a whole new industry you never knew you'll devote yourself into too. Thank you, innovators, for joining us. I hope that today's conversation made you rethink about any translation and interpretation work. Take a moment to learn more about Terra Translations and Marina and Colleen in our show notes. Thank you, Marina and Colleen, for sharing your story with us. This was Monica King, your host at Curious Monica and founder of Innovators Box. Please take a moment to subscribe, share, and leave a review. Next week, I'm eager to learn more about being a leader. In particular, leaders with a coaching mindset. While we had some coaches before in Season 1, there is still a lot to uncover in this realm, and especially in this time as the leadership lens is changing. Curious to learn more? Join me next week at Curious Monica. Send me any questions at info@innovatorsbox.com or curiousmonica.com. Have a great week!
Oh, hi! I'm Sara Piedrahita, the virtual assistant at Innovators Box, and I hope you're enjoying Curious Monica. Maybe you already noticed my accent. I'm Colombian and just graduated from advertising. I also learned English mostly by listening to music in this language, which is something I love. This show is brought together by our amazing podcast team at Innovators Box Studios. Shout out to audio engineer Sam Lammert, Kelly Grava on marketing, website designer Akriti Pandey, graphic designer Monica Escobar, Leah Oricini on social media graphics, me and Flor on project assistance, and Luke Helder on music. And of course, this show is hosted and directed by the curious woman herself, Monica King, founder and CEO of Innovators Box. To continue the curiosity and creativity of the workplace, visit us at innovatorsbox.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share. Would love to hear what you're curious about and what Mysterious Monica can uncover in our next episode. See you next week.